So welcome back to Learning Partner. In this video, we are going to see how we can implement login page with Angular 17. Now everyone knows like there are some changes. We kind of these are the big changes it will come across when we do the development, right? So that also we are going to discuss like what new changes are there. So whatever the errors you encounter when you start working with Angular 17, right? All these things we are going to discuss. Now, before starting, if we say login page, right? So what and various scenarios are there in the login page? First is like if you are appearing for the machine test or if you are appearing for the interview, if someone asks you like to implement the login page, so there are multiple scenarios which they can ask. First, login page with local storage means in this login page they will ask you to create a sign up page also and plus login. So you can create a form and you can store the data into the local storage. And in login page, you need to check the user credentials with that local data only, right? This is also one of the machine test example. Second scenario will be login page with real API, right? Here they will provide the API to check login, right? Whatever the users you need to check that they will provide. Third is login page with API plus token based authentication. In this, you have to use interceptor. Okay, so these are the various possible scenarios we have when we come across a login page, right? Don't waste time in UI designing. Just type login page CodePen. You will get tons of the ready-made available code. You can just use that, but just focus on the functionality. Okay. Now, so in this episode, we are going to cover this login page with the real API, right? So now in my free API miniproject.com Swagger, you can see the login page is there. In the user controller, you can find all the login APIs. From create user, you can create the user and the login API you can use. If you pass the email ID and the password, you will get the token like this, right? So this is, what do we say, an API which is token based API, right? But for now, we can just cover the second scenario which we have talked about, login page with real API. We won't be implementing the token and everything, but in next video again I will cover with token and everything. And then lastly I will cover with the local storage, the first scenario which we have discussed. Now, so in my GitHub, you can see the code in Angular 17 login page. Now this repository I will try to clone. So this is my clone URL. Let's go to the folder, YouTube, Angular 17. Here I have to open the command prompt. Now I have to clone that repository. So git clone space URL you need to enter. So it will clone that. Now currently I don't have anything in the repository. So that's why it is saying like you have to open to clone empty repository. Now in this folder, I have to create the project, right? So I will open the CMD over here, ng new. I will just give the name of the, what do we say, repository only. So let me just copy the name, enter. Now it will ask some things. Let it ask. So like which CSS framework do you need? So let's go with the CSS only. Now it will again ask, this is an Angular 17. So in Angular 17, we have, what do we say, server side rendering as a stable feature, right? So it will ask you like, do you need a server side rendering or not? So we are just focusing with the login page. So I will say no and press enter. So you can see the basic project it has created. Now, one more thing I have to do, I will just stop the npm installation. So if you remember in Angular 17, we have created the project. So again, this we have to move Control X to the parent. Otherwise in Angular 17, again, we will have Angular 17 just like that. So let me just delete. Now, when I do the videos, multiple projects I have to create. So I cannot keep, what do we say, node model copy in all the projects because it takes so much space. So what I have did is in Angular 17 folder, I have already installed the node module with package.json. So now I just have to create a shortcut over here. So I will open the command prompt. This you also can do with administrative rule, administrator run. Now you need to go to that folder, cd, YouTube, cd, Angular 17, cd, Angular 17 login. Now here you need one command that will create a shortcut of that 17 module. So this is my command. I will paste it over here, right? So now you can see here we have got the Angular 17 shortcut. So with this approach, you don't have to create node module every time. You just put that node module in a specific folder, and every time when you create a new project, you just have to create a reference of that, right? Now, so we just need to open this project in the Visual Studio Code, right click, new visual, new video code. Let's open the folder, open folder, the folder path we have created. Let's enter, select. So now you can see we have opened that particular folder. Now let's run this also. So we're talking about Angular 17. So you might also know like we don't have app module, right? We have some app config and wrap route file is there. Let's run the project. Running command is same only. Now, so in my node module, I already have the bootstrap and the everything, but to use the bootstrap and the font, so we need the bootstrap file, right? So in angular.json, I will add my bootstrap file reference like this. I just need a bootstrap file. So that we have to put it in the style section, right? Let it run. So it is running on the localhost 4200. So now you can see the basic page will come, right? So this is the default page we get with an Angular 17. Now, first thing we have to create the routes. Now, whenever we start on the login page is like when user hits our application, by default, login page should be visible. We don't show navbar or the sidebar, anything on that login page. Only login page will be there. But once we do the login, then it will redirect to some another page where it will have a sidebar or the navbar and everything, right? So to achieve that structure, let me just save it. If we are not logged in, app component will be our parent component. But if we are logged in, then we have to make another component as a parent component. So for that, I will need couple of components. So in app folder, I'm going to create component for pages folder. Now inside this, I will create my components. Open in terminal, ng generate component. First component login, right? This is the basic one we are going to need. Enter. Now in Angular 17, every components are by default standalone component. So it will come to the story like why standalone component, what is different over there, right? So one component we have created, that is Angular's login page. Another component we are going to need that will be used as a parent component where we will have navbar and everything. So ng generate component, I will name it as a layout. Here I will have the navbar and the router outlet. Let's press enter. And after login, I need to redirect to somewhere. Right. So after login, I will redirect to the dashboard page. So I will need a dashboard component. Let's enter. So I have created three components: login, layout, and the dashboard. Right. Now, after that, we have to create the routes. So we have to go to the app routes.ts. Here I have to create the routes. This is the empty file. Now here, first route, it will be the default route. So path will be empty. Okay, it is coming directly like this. Let it be. So first default route, if it is default, we need redirect to property. Let it load. Redirect to, and we have to redirect to login page. If we don't have anything in the URL, it will redirect to the login page. And we need one more strategy over here, that is path match, and we have to pass the full. This is my default route. If in the URL we don't have anything, it will redirect to the login page. Then we need a login route. So name will be login, component we have to open on this URL is login component, right? After this login, we need to create another route that will be for the layout. But again, path will be empty and component will be layout. And to this layout component, whatever the routes we are going to have after the login, right? Whatever the routes we need that will be useful after the login, that will be part of the children for this component. So we have to add children's over here, right? So currently we just have one component after the login, that is dashboard, and component will be dashboard, right? So this is your structure should look like. First, default route, then second, your login component, then third will be a empty route, but with the component as a layout component. And to this layout component, after login, whatever the component you are going to display after the login, all those components will be registered over here to the children of the layout component. Because in layout component, we are going to have the router outlet and the navbar, right? So this is the route you have to develop after that. So route, just give me a second. Routes we have created. After that, next thing is like we have to start working on the login page. Now, when we have created the project, some default HTML was there in the app component. So let's remove everything and we need router outlet over here, right? Let's check if we have router outlet implemented. Yeah. Now, coming back to Angular 17, new things. Just a rule is there, whatever you use, you need to import that. So let's say in HTML, I'm using router outlet. So I need to import that. You can see previously it was not necessary to import the router outlet. But now if you are using anything, you need to import it. So router outlet we have imported and we have provided that an import statement. This is the standalone component, right? Now let's get that login page code. So if I save everything, let's go to the page. Now you can see by default login is visible. Even if I remove URL from the browser now, so still it is redirected to login page. That's because of the default route. It's because of this. Now we need the login page, right? So here, let's get the code of this. So this is the HTML. Let's copy. Let's paste in the HTML. Then we need the CSS also. So let's get whole CSS. From body, I'm taking it. Copy. Let's paste it in over here. Now currently we don't have body, right? So you can just rename this with the parent class, and whatever the HTML we have that we can wrap inside. Okay, one section was there, right? So div class parent. Let's save. Same login page should be visible now. Okay, body is something else, right? So we need to make it div. Let's save. Now you can see same login page is visible, but it has some border also. I think it is coming from the body, display flex, center, height and width is also there. From where it is sticking that? Let's try to remove this. No, it is breaking. From where it is taking that? Display flex, height. Okay, let it be. Let me just inspect and see from where this spacing is coming. Body. I don't know from where it is coming. Let's try margin 0. Okay, so that was coming from body. So let's go to the app page, sorry, index.html, and here let's make it style margin 0. Let's save and check. Yeah. So now you can see login page is properly visible. Still, it is going outside. Why it is going outside? We have copied everything, right? Nothing else is left. Let's copy this also. Okay, let it be. We don't waste the time in the login page. Now we have the login page, right? After that, in the login page, we need to integrate the API, right? So that API is going to be, sorry, let me just open the one browser only. Let me just close this. Now, the API we are going to use is the login API. But before that, we have to create the user. So let's go to create user and let's create a user. Let's create the user with Sachin Tendulkar name. Sachin, middle name, let's make it as R Tendulkar. Mobile number, let's enter some dummy mobile number. Right, email ID sachin@dummy.com. And password, let's enter password as 113322. Okay, so we have given the email ID as sachin@dummy.com and the password is 113322. Remaining things I'm not pushing in right now. Let's click on execute. Right, so it is the message we have got is true, saved successfully, and the ID also we have got. Now let's try this in the login API. If we are getting login is successful, this is a login API. So let's enter over here and let's try to enter the wrong password. Let's see if we get the message like, yeah. So you can see if we pass the wrong user ID and password, we are getting the error. Let's enter correct password 113322, execute. Now see, if it is success, we are getting true login success and the token also we are getting. Now, so this is the object we need to pass to the post API. This is the login API is the post API and we need to send the particular field, right? So let's copy this. Let's go to the login component and here we need to create the object. So login. Now, since it is just a small project, so I will create the interface. So export or class, I will create class login, right? What are the fields I'm going to need that I will create? So this is the first field. The data type will be string. The second field is password. Again, the data type will be string. Right. So it is saying like it is not, it doesn't have an initializer. Since it is a class, we have to use the constructor. And in constructor, we will just initialize this property with empty. This dot password is equal to empty. Now, the purpose of this, when you create a class or interface, you get a strongly typed data, right? So login object colon. Now data type instead of any, now you have created a class. So instead of any, you can use this, right? Now we have to need the constructor. Now in the constructor, we need to initialize this. So we just need to initialize it by creating new instance, login like this. Right? So we have created a class along with the properties we need to send. Then we have created an object with the login class of means data type, and we have initialized that also. Next thing, we need to bind this object to our login form using ng model. So to use ng model, you might know in app module we used to add forms module, but this is a standalone component, right? So here only we need to import that. So forms module, right? So again, rule goes like whatever you use that, you import that and use add that to the import statement. Now in the login page, since it is in the form section, so we have to use the ng model and the name attribute also. So now ng model login object dot. See the purpose of creating class. Now, if we didn't if we have not created that class, this autocomplete won't come. But now since we have created a class and that we have binded to this, so autocomplete and strongly typing is coming properly. Right. Again, we need the name attribute also. Name attribute become mandatory if your form is inside the form tag. So let's copy this. Let's copy this also. And this will be password. Same you need to put it over here, right? So first thing we have done, object we have created, that object we have binded. Now, next thing is like on the login page, let's remove the sign up and the forgot password as we don't need it. On the login page, instead of submit, let's make it button. On click of login, we need to call the API. So let's write the function on login. Let's create this function. Right now, in the login function, we have to integrate our API call. So to call the API, right, we need to use HTTP client. So let's first do that. So in the constructor, we have to create the service of HTTP client. We will get one error that I will explain. Now, if you remember to use the HTTP client, we have to import just like the password. We used to import HTTP client module. Let's try that first. So just like this, common slash HTTP, and here HTTP client module, and this module will go over here, right? Let's check if we get any error. I think we should get, let's check first. Okay, suddenly it started coming proper. So okay, currently we are not having any error, but let's try now. Right. So now in this login page, we have to make the API call. So either you can create a service also to store, to keep the API call, or from component also you can make the API call. So this .http .post, post function, post method will require two parameter URL and the object. So URL will be, let's go to Swagger and copy the URL. So this is my URL. So let's copy it. Let's paste it over here. And second object will be login object. The object we have to send. Now we have to subscribe to the result. Res colon any arrow function, right? So here you just need to add an if statement. If, because from my API we are getting the object, and in that object we have a result property. So res dot result. This property will denote like API call is success or not. So if it is true, then we can show just alert I'm showing login success. And if error, we will show the message we get from the API. So in the result only dot message property is there where you will get message, right? Let's add a debugger. Whenever you are doing for the first time, always make sure you debug the code, check the data, whatever data is coming properly or not. So the details were sachin@dummy.com and the password was 112233. Let's copy. Now here Sachin and password 113322. Right? Let's try wrong password. Now, if I click on the login, we should get a debugger. Now, so you can see in the login object, we have got the data, whatever we have entered into the form, right? This is what I was talking about. Every time, whenever you debug the code, you should move your mouse, check what object, what data we are getting in the object, right? Let's add a debugger at line number 24 also. Once we get the response, let's continue now, right? So now in the response, it is coming false, right? Because the password we have sent incorrect, right? So in the result, you can see message also we have got. So now since result property is false, it will go to the else block and we are displaying the message. Now let's enter the correct password. 113322. Let's try login now. Right now your result property is true. Now we will show the alert box. But if user is successfully logged in, then we need to navigate, right? So we can navigate by creating from login component. In this function, we have to navigate to the dashboard. So to navigate from .ts, obviously we have to make use of the router. So private router, the object will come from router, right? And here in the if statement, we block this dot router dot navigate by URL, and we need to pass the URL. Once user is successfully logged in, we have to navigate to the dashboard component. This, right? So let's paste it over here. Now, the dashboard component is a child of layout component. So in the layout component, I need to add the navbar and everything. So let's go to W3 School. Let's use the basic navbar. Navbar. Let's copy this. So now layout component will be your parent component after the login. So here you will have navbar, and here also again you will have router outlet. Right? Again, rule goes, if you have to use something, you need to import it. So in the .ts, you need to use router outlet. This you have to import. Then only you can use it. Right? So let's just save and check. So after the login, we have written the code that redirect to the dashboard. So let's check. What was that? Sachin at dummy.com, and the password was 113322. Let's click on login, continue, login success. Then you can see we have successfully navigate to the, but why dashboard is not coming properly? So I think the link is not there properly, but let's use the CDN directly. Something wrong with my reference. So in the index.html, for now, I'm just keeping my CDN directly so that we can see the navbar properly. Still, it is not visible. Why is it so? So in layout, we have added the proper navbar. Okay, now it is visible. So now here you can see dashboard component loaded. Our parent component is layout now, right? In that layout, dashboard component is visible, right? So this is how you should implement your login page. Then again, you will have all the links of the routes you will create. And here you can have a logout button that will again redirect to the login page. But make sure when you do the login, like you should store the data, whatever you get from the API. And when you log out, and means, I mean, store means you can use the session storage or the local storage or cookies also. Based on the requirement of your project, you can use any of the three medium. And in the logout button, you should first clear the data you stored in the local storage or session storage and then redirect to the login page. This is how you should implement the login page in Angular 17, right? Just the logic was this type of routes, right? So that's it with the current video. Hope these videos are helpful to you. Please do like, subscribe. In next videos, I will do the implementation of interceptor and again one more video with the local storage again with the Angular 17. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching.